You are listening to the DIY Marketing School podcast. I'm your host, marketing coach, productivity lover, Melanie Diane Howe. In this episode, I am going to cover 5 powerhouse apps that every small business and entrepreneur must have in their stack. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you today because this episode, I'm going to cover 5 powerhouse apps to boost your productivity. I love when I can find a good app that just makes my life or my business easier. I mean, it is like, I love it. I mean, it's like one of the things I love. In fact, I love finding apps so much that it's kind of a downfall because I will spend a little too much time exploring all the different apps. But good news for you is that I look at them all the time and pretty much only share the ones that I like, the ones that I think work, and the ones that I think are kind of what I like to call plug and play, meaning they don't require, hours and hours and hours of you to learn how to use them. I love a good turnkey app, one that you basically you log in and you can figure out how to use it and it can start making your business and your life better immediately. So today I'm going to cover 5 apps that I love. These are 5 apps that I have used for a long time. Now, one thing I do know about apps is there's always new apps coming out all the time, and they can, if you're not careful, become bright and shiny objects. Now, it doesn't mean that just because you use one app for something means you should always use it and you should never change. I'm just pointing this out because there are hundreds of apps out there and software applications that will help you in your business. The 5 that I'm going to tell you about today have been around for a while, and I have used all 5 of them for years, and they are still strong staples in business. And when you Google about these apps, they are the top dogs. So you've maybe heard of some of them before. If not, welcome. Here we go. Now, what I love about these 5 apps is they all go together, meaning it's kind of like you can create your own little productivity process. And so I'm going to walk you through each of these apps and how they're used, but how they contribute to your, process of creating and managing your social media content or your marketing for your business. So the first app is called Trello, Trello. Now, I'm going to link to this app as well as all of the other apps in the show notes. So don't feel like you've got to write that down. Just go to the show notes. All of these apps are going to be in the show notes for this podcast. So Trello is actually kind of like a project management application. And it was actually created by a software development company back in the day. And they essentially needed a way to manage their own projects. And so they actually created their own app. They developed their own app in-house. They used it and they realized it was so helpful. They decided, well, let's go ahead and let other people use it. So Trello is free. There's a free version, but there's also a paid version. I honestly can't imagine that anyone listening to this podcast would truly need the paid version of Trello, but maybe you do. But for the most part, the free version is amazing. And what I like to use Trello for is brainstorming ideas. So you can actually project plan. You can collaborate with other people using Trello. You can put tasks in Trello. You can organize them and you can project manage things in it. And it works great for that. But I actually really like using Trello for the brainstorming stage. And really what Trello does is it's kind of like you create these lists and then you create cards. So almost as if you were to think about, if you were to try to start brainstorming a project and you just started writing down ideas on Post-it notes and you weren't exactly sure how to organize your Post-it notes, you just started writing them and just Post-it note, Post-it note, Post-it note, Post-it note. And then as you got further into that brain dump, if you will, you could start to kind of organize those Post-it notes. And maybe you start to stick them on a wall and you start to group them together. Well, Trello basically allows you to do something like this virtually. And so you can just create a list and start putting in what are called cards. And then you can create more lists and you can move the cards around. Or you can even move an entire list of cards. And once you're in the app and you start playing with this, you'll know what I mean. But basically you start out with what's called a board, and then you create a list, and then you create cards. And then you can create multiple cards, and you can copy cards, and you can move the cards around, and you can move the lists around on your board. So think of it as a bulletin board with a bunch of Post-it notes. But imagine if you could take that Post-it note, flip it over, and write even more detail. Maybe you could attach a picture. Maybe you could create a checklist. Maybe you could even communicate and assign that Post-it note to someone. Well, Trello actually lets you do this. So as you click on a card, you can add more detail. You can have conversations on a card. If you have multiple people on your board, like if you're managing it with multiple people, they'll get notified when you add an update to the card. It's amazing. So again, you can even assign due dates to cards. So you can use Trello to project manage a project. You can use it to plan a vacation. You could use it to brainstorm your next product launch. I mean, you can use it for all kinds of stuff. I like to use it for brainstorming because of the flexibility of it. Because many times when I start to if I were to just kind of start writing stuff down on a piece of paper or even in, a different app, I feel like I need structure when I'm creating it that way. And so even if I was opening up a Word document, I feel like I need to know the sections and the bullets, and it's too difficult once I decide, this entire group of information needs to now go over here. It's kind of a pain in the butt to edit it. And so what I like about Trello is it lets you dump your ideas and kind of let them marinate and let your brain kind of go. And then you can move everything around very fluidly. The other thing I love about Trello is that it's a cloud app. And what that means is that if you open up Trello on your computer and you edit your board or you edit your cards or you add cards, well, if somebody else is on your board, then as soon as when they're in Trello, even if they're in it at the exact same time you are, they will actually see the cards move that you're moving around. Or if you work on it and then now you're at the coffee shop and you're on your laptop, away from your computer at the office, you can open up Trello there and it's all there. It's all the updates are made. You can even use Trello on your phone for the exact same purpose. So it's a really great cloud app that is virtual and it's always up to date at all times. So if somebody else is in there looking at something, they're always going to see the most up-to-date information. And you can create multiple boards. So you could create, one board for all your projects and each list could be different projects. Or you can create different boards for different projects. So it's up to you, however you want to use Trello. But I love Trello. So that is a great brainstorming tool. So imagine you're brainstorming, your content for the next 3 months and you're throwing it in Trello and each list is a different category. So maybe the first list is your live videos that you're going to do, and you just start creating cards for all those live videos. And then the next list might be blog posts. And then the next list might be emails that you're going to do. And you would create a card for each weekly email and add the ideas to those cards for the emails. So there's a million ways you can do it. Now, let's go to the next step because that was Trello. I love Trello. God, I've been using Trello for 7 years now, and I just love it. So Asana is the next app I want to talk about. And Asana, I'm going to spell it Asana is how you spell it. And again, I'll link to Asana in the show notes. But Asana is also a project management app, but it is more focused on true task management. So, if you've heard of or used Basecamp before, or even Microsoft Project, things like that, Asana is an alternative. And what I love about Asana is that it's free. There, of course, is a paid version, but the free version is extremely robust, and it is awesome. So about 5 years ago, when I was starting my business, my background is actually project management. So I had a lot of experience using project management apps everywhere from a spreadsheet of tasks with people's names in them and dates to Microsoft Project to Basecamp to others. And I knew I needed a project management tool of some form. And I researched and I found lots of different options out there. And I probably spent a good 4 to 5 months really trying to find the right app for me. And if I discovered anything, what I discovered is there's no perfect app, but Asana came about as close as what I was looking for as I could find. And the bonus was that it was free. And so what Asana does is it allows you to create a project and then put tasks in the project and assign people to those tasks and put due dates in those tasks. Now you might be saying, well, duh, that's what a project management app should do. But here are some features that I love about Asana, which is why I chose Asana and why I have used Asana for the last 5 years now. One is it lets you create subtasks. So you can create a task, let's say it's blog post, and then you can create subtasks that belong to that blog post task, meaning like maybe it's create draft, maybe it's approve draft, maybe it's design images and then publish to WordPress. And then the last task might be social media posts. And all of those little tasks belong to the blog post task. So I really like project managing this way because sometimes you have a kind of a hairy task and it needs those little tasks underneath it. Now you might be saying, well, why wouldn't you just make the blog post a project? Well, you could totally do that. And some of you may want to do that. But when you're in a business like mine, where I have different clients that I work with, different major launches, different projects I'm working on, that hierarchy of task management looks a little different. And so for me, I might have different projects for different clients. And then I might have one project that's my marketing for my business. And inside that project are my marketing tasks and the subtasks. You might look at Asana and say, well, screw that. I'm going to just make I'm going to make blog post number 1 a project, blog post number 2 a project, January social media content a project, whatever you might want to do. And that works. That's what I like about Asana is it can kind of work in different formats. But what I like is that it has that flexibility so that if you do need subtasks, you can create subtasks. I was really surprised that when I was researching project management apps, how many of these apps out there did not have this function, this feature. And for me, the way that I need to organize my brain and the work, because I have freelancers that work with me and teammates, I need those subtasks. And I was shocked that hardly anybody had them. Well, if they did, it was you had to pay for it. You had to pay for an upgraded version of the software. So Asana lets you create these subtasks. The other thing I like about Asana is that it allows you to have a calendar view of your tasks. So you can create, when you log in, you're going to see a list of your tasks that are assigned to you, or you can customize your view. You can make it you look at all incomplete tasks, or you look at all tasks, whatever. So you have these different views that you can look at, which was also something I liked. But it allows you to look at it either in a list view or in a calendar view. And some people have a preference of one or the other, or you could be super complicated like me. And depending on the way your mind is working in that moment, you might need both. I like a good list view, but then there's times where I need to see things on a calendar. I need to see where we are on a calendar. I need to know if my freelancer is way overloaded this week and there's just too many tasks on her plate or whatnot. And in that calendar view, you can actually move tasks around and it will adjust the due date. Now, I don't know about you, but if you know anything about project management apps, this is like gold. To be able to do that is awesome. So that's another feature I absolutely love about Asana. And there's way more that I could go into detail with, but here's how I want you to start to think about Asana. So let's say you've brainstormed some content for your business in Trello. Now it's time to actually sit down and work and make sure and create a plan for that content. So you could stay in Trello, or you could open up Asana and you could say, boom, here we go. Here's, I just sat down and brainstormed, 30 Facebook Lives for the next 30 weeks. Now I'm going to put them in and I'm going to create a task for each one and a due date of when these are going to happen. And my freelancer is now going to go in and she's going to be able to see when these things are happening, and she can actually get ready to create my subsequent blog post that's going to go along with those, however you want to divvy up the work. But it really allows you to create this really beautiful structure, whether it be a list view or a calendar view, of seeing these projects and the assignments of them. Now, again, you can do this in Trello, but it's a little bit different. I personally like Asana for project management of tasks, like the task management. So I want you to check that one out for sure. Okay. The next app, I could talk about Asana all day, by the way, including how when you complete a task, literally a unicorn flies across your screen. I mean, how cool is that? I love that. Okay, sorry, a little bit of a rabbit hole there. The next app I want to talk to you about is Google Docs, okay? Google Drive is your main kind of organizational cloud server. That is also a staple in my business. And so if you're a Google Drive user, you probably are already familiar with Google Docs, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're using Dropbox or a different server management, a place to store all your files in the cloud. But Google Docs, I like Google Docs for collaborative writing. And so you can actually take notes in Google Docs. You can save information in Google Docs. I mean, you can use Google Docs for lots of things, but essentially what it is, it's kind of like Word, so Microsoft Word, but it's Google's version of it. And it's in the cloud. So what that means is you go to Google Docs and, online, and you open up your doc and you edit that doc there. Well, then you go to your phone. Well, you can access that exact same document on your phone, and it has all your most recent updates. And so that's a beautiful thing. So it's very much like Word. You can create all kinds of things in Google Docs. Basically, almost anything you can create in Word, you can create in Google Docs. But the reason I like to use it for collaborative writing is because it's stored in the cloud. Okay. So again, you can access it anywhere. So you could draft a blog post at the coffee shop because maybe that's where the creative juices flow for you. And then you can revisit that Google Doc when you get home, or you could be somewhere else and be like, ooh, I just had a new idea for that blog post. And you can open it up on your phone and edit it and add to it right there. So it's virtually kept in the cloud, which makes you able to access it anywhere at all times. But here's the reason I like to use it for this, because there's other apps that do the same thing. In fact, Microsoft Word, if you use OneDrive, it will do the same thing. But I like Google Doc because it's a really great tool when you need someone else to help you edit or write a document, or if you need multiple people to be able to see something. So I like to use Google Docs whenever I'm doing any kind of copywriting or any kind of copy editing, because I have a freelancer who helps me with all of my copywriting, my copy editing. She is a writer for my client work that we do. She's incredible, and we work in Google Docs. And so what happens is sometimes she will draft a blog post, and then I will go in and review that blog post, and I will make comments or suggested edits. And so it allows me to actually say, like, suggest an edit where I just click on, edit suggesting. And then when I delete a word and type a word, it doesn't actually change the document. It shows her, hey, I'm telling you should maybe consider this. She can then accept or reject that edit. And it works both ways. So I can write something and say, hey, I got started on this. I'm kind of stuck on it. Can you kind of make it a little bit more colorful, make it sound better? Or can you check the spelling and grammar, because she's amazing at that. And she can go in and make suggested edits. I like suggested edits because then I can see what I did wrong, or I can say, oh, actually, no, I don't want to do that because I really meant for it to sound like this. And so I like using Google Docs for collaborative writing. So if you're drafting something and you need somebody to edit it for you or review it, you can use Google Docs that way. We use it with our clients as well. So we have a couple clients who we send them the link and they look at it, they make suggested edits, or they just add comments. You can also just add a comment. And it makes the process so much easier and so much faster. It's way better than saving a document, emailing the document. They have to then open the document, save their edits, attach it, yada, yada. It's just so much faster to just send a link and be like, boom, here it is. Now, we're going to pull this together. So we've brainstormed blog posts. We've brainstormed content in Trello. We've created tasks in Asana. All right. Now I'm going to open a Google Doc and it's time to work on that blog post draft, because my Asana thing just told me, hey, your draft is due tomorrow. So great. I'm going to open up a Google Doc. I'm going to draft that blog post. I'm going to grab that link to that Google Doc and I'm going to add it to the Asana task. Or maybe my freelancer has a task that's completely separate that says, edit blog post. I'm going to add that Google Doc and be like, hey, the draft is ready. I don't have to email her anything. I don't have to text her. I don't have to call her. All she has to do is check her Asana, and in her little inbox of Asana, it's actually going to tell her, Melanie added a link to this task, and she's going to see it right there. She clicks the link, opens up the Google Doc, makes the suggested edits, closes it, goes back to Asana, comments and says, hey, I made the edits for you. And then I'm in Asana. It tells me that happened. And now my blog draft is ready and done and ready to go without any emails, without any text messages. We didn't even have to talk to each other, and it all is able to be tracked and communicated within these apps. So this is why I love this. It creates a seamless process for you. So I hope you're kind of starting to pick up on a little bit of a theme here, that these Powerhouse apps, they truly are the stack you need in your business. They all kind of do their own different thing. So Google Docs is awesome. Check it out. It's great. It's super easy to use. It's free. Isn't that amazing? It's freaking free. I love it. Okay. Next up, the next app, similar to Google Docs, but different, is Evernote. Okay, Evernote, Evernote. The link will be in the show notes. So Evernote, I want you to think of Evernote as your virtual trapper keeper. I mean, I'm old enough to know what trapper keepers are. Not all of you are, but I mean, I know plenty of us are old enough to remember a trapper keeper. A good old trapper keeper is like this 3-ring binder that had dividers in it and folders and like cool colors. And maybe you had a unicorn on your trapper keeper. But I mean, it's a virtual trapper keeper. That's hard to say. Virtual trapper keeper. What Evernote does is it lets you create notes, but you can create notebooks. And I'm actually, as I am talking to you right now, I have an Evernote open and I have a notebook that's called podcast. And in this notebook, I can create a different note for each podcast. And I can just kind of throw my notes in there and I can kind of type up my bullet points so that when I, go through these podcasts, I kind of have a script, not a script really, because I'm not a scripted person, but I have bullets and I have the points I want to cover. I am literally looking at Evernote right now as I am talking to you. And so I love what Evernote lets me do because I can create these notes and there's lots of different formats that you can use. You can have bullets in there. You can even have check boxes that you can check mark, which is awesome. So if you wanted to, create a to-do list in Evernote, you totally could. But what I love is the notebook feature. So you can organize everything in notebooks. Now, Evernote is actually an app I have been using for, I'm going to go ahead and say around 10 or 11 years. I started using it on a large, when I started working with a huge project and I discovered Evernote and it was amazing because I was traveling all the time. So I was at my office computer, but then I was traveling to go work with clients and then I was coming back and I was going back and forth. And it was like the actual physical notebook just wasn't cutting it anymore. And so I would go and I would take these notes and then I would come back and I'd be on these different computers, laptop versus desktop. And I was able to just always keep track of my notes. Now you're saying, well, that sounds a lot like what you just described with Google Docs. You could totally use Google Docs the same way. You could totally use Google Drive and Google Docs. You could create folders and put the Google Docs in there. That works. If that's you and you kind of want one all-inclusive app, that is great. That totally works. Evernote pretty much just kind of makes it easier. It's just already built to do that. It's already built to create notebooks and notes. And I like the formatting that it uses. And so I can also do the same. It's a virtual app as well in the cloud. So I can be somewhere, I can add to it, and I can pull it up on my phone. And there's the stuff that I need. I can edit it right there. So the reason I like to use Evernote differently than Google Docs is because Google Docs is more for, again, that collaborative work or the shared documents that I need other people to be able to see, to contribute to add to, whatnot. Evernote is like my own personal virtual notebook. Okay. And that's why I use them separately. So I look at Google Docs as kind of more public within my little, organization or with my clients. And then I use Evernote for just my eyes only. So that's where I keep notes. I journal in my Evernote sometimes. I have kind of like a little journal. I've got all kinds of stuff in here. But this is just for stuff that just nobody else really needs to see. And it's just for me. And it keeps the stuff that I share with people just cleaner. Okay, so that I'm not having to really overthink what I'm sharing and not sharing. If it's in Evernote, I know that I'm the only one who's going to see it. You can actually use a paid version of Evernote. Evernote's free, by the way. You can use a paid version, though, and you can actually share stuff like within your organization, and you can do collaborative editing there. So there's a lot of options, but that's how I like to use Evernote. So Evernote for me is great when you need to could just keep track of your business planning, your business goals, just kind of the stuff that you need to dump your mind and kind of get things out. Every time I meet with clients, I actually have a different note for each client. And so whenever I go meet with a client, I pull up their note and I have every meeting. For the next meeting, I put today's date and I put the notes from that meeting. And that way I have one note and I can always go back and look at all the different, if I'm like, oh, last month we talked about this. How'd that go for you? Did you get that done? And I do this with my business coach as well. Like I have a OneNote that I keep that I use for, every time I meet with her, I keep track of stuff so that I know what I committed to and what I'm supposed to get done, what she, recommended to me, et cetera, et cetera. So Evernote, again, think of it as your virtual trapper keeper. Another alternative to that, if you are a Microsoft lover and user, is OneNote. And it's very, very similar, but different. I've used both. I think they both are great. I just have used Evernote so long that I think I just like it and I know it, and that's the one I use. So, but OneNote is another great alternative to check out. Okay, the next app. I've almost saved the best for last, but I don't know. They're all amazing. I don't know. If you asked me which of these is my favorite, I really couldn't answer you because, again, they all do different things and they all help me in different ways for my business. All right. So the last app, the fifth app in this powerhouse stack that you need for your business is Canva, Canva. And Canva is an app that lets the non-designer be a great designer. I mean, honestly, like you can create so many great graphics and visuals using Canva that just, again, they allow the non-designer to be a designer. Now, if you're looking for like high-end custom stuff, then you need to hire a designer. I think designers are still, I value designers. I love them. But for the stuff that we need to do ourselves, which we are DIYers, and I want you to do your own stuff, you can use Canva. So Canva is an app. You just go to canva.com. Again, I'll link in the show notes. And you create an account. It's free. There is, of course, a Canva Pro account as well that I do recommend, but I want you to try the free version first to make sure you like it. If you like it and you can just see how you're going to use it for your business, this is worth the investment to invest in Canva Pro because it has other features that are going to make your life even better. But Canva, basically what it is you go in and you can create anything from your social media graphics to proposals to presentations like PowerPoint presentations to flyers, postcards, email headers, LinkedIn headers, all kinds of stuff, invitations. There's so much in there. There's even a section now that they just added for educators. So like your lesson plans. So what it is it uses a series of templates. So you go in and you click on, let's say, Instagram post, and you can search all these different templates and you find one that you like and you click it. And then you just edit it. You change the text or you change the image or you change the colors. And so what it does is it takes that concepting step out of design. So the design process when you're working with a true designer is, the idea, the objective, and then the next step is concept. And so a good designer is going to probably give you, anywhere from 3 to 5 concepts, and they're going to be very different. And you're going to pick one. You're going to be like, that's the closest to what I'm looking for. And then you're going to edit from there. And then you're going to, once they edit from there, then you might take that concept and you might apply that to all kinds of different graphics. Well, that entire process is basically done for you with Canva. And so the true fine art graphic designer, that's what they do. They come up with original design and it's amazing, but it's also expensive. And you need to be able to pay a good designer to do their great work. They're an artist. Well, what this is artists have already done this. They've created these templates and they're in this software app that makes the process easy. So you don't have to use fancy, techie, hard to use design software that people literally go to college to use or they do training for to use. And it's a very simplified version of editing the graphics. And that's what Canva does. And so it's great for the DIYer because we go in and, we're a small business. We don't necessarily need custom stuff, right? Now, your branding, I think you should hire a designer, and all that branding stuff, I think you should do custom stuff. That's your concept. But once you have that concept done, now you can go into Canva, find an image that you like, and you can change the colors to your brand colors. You can change the font to your font that your brand specialist created for you. And you can upload the pictures that your photographer took for you, whatnot. And you can now create your own designs. And so Canva, again, it's great for social media. It's amazing for social media content. You can make flyers in here. You can do all kinds of stuff. So you can never have the excuse of, I don't have a Facebook cover photo because I'm not a designer. Well, go to Canva, click on Facebook cover photo, pick a template, tweak it, make it your own, and there you go. So what you do is you edit these things and then you can download them into image files or PDFs or whatever format you need. And then now you have it and you can use it. Canva's awesome. And when you have the paid version, you have access to stock imagery as well. So like thousands and thousands and thousands of stock images. And I love that about it because it puts everything in one place for you. So you've got to check out Canva. It's amazing. It does lots of stuff. And it's one of those apps where it is very plug and play. but the more you use it, the better you will get at using it. So it's kind of one of those ones that the more you go, the better you get. Okay, there you have it. Those are my 5 powerhouse apps that every small business marketer needs in their stack. We talked about Trello for brainstorming. We talked about Asana for task management. We talked about Google Docs for collaborative writing and editing and sharing content. And then we talked about Evernote, which is your virtual trapper keeper, a place for you to keep all the important notes and all the things that you want to save and organize them in different notebooks or tabs. And then we talked about Canva, my favorite easy to use graphic design tool that lets any non-designer go create graphics for their own stuff all by themselves without outsourcing it to an expensive designer. So you got to have these. You got to check them out. I will have a link to each of these in the show notes. But as I mentioned, I love apps and I love productivity. There are more apps that I love to use and recommend. There's video apps. There's so many more that I constantly talk about. If you want to see all the apps and resources that I recommend, then go to melaniedyan.com/resources. Again, that's melaniedyann.com/resources. There will be a link in the show notes as well. But there I give you these apps and more, including the links to access them so that you can use them. So that's what I've got for you guys today. If you haven't already, please give this podcast a subscription. So click subscribe wherever it is that you listen so that you don't miss an episode. I have so much planned for you guys. We're going to talk about content strategy. There's going to be times I'm going to talk even further about productivity because I love productivity. We're going to talk about what's working in social media, how to bridge the gap between your online marketing and your offline marketing. We're going to talk about customer service. There's so many things that I'm going to talk about to help you do your own marketing, but do it well. And marketing goes so much further than social media, but we do talk about social media the most. My goal for you is that you can listen to this podcast, get the tips, the encouragement, sometimes the tough love, the kick in the rear that you need to go do your own marketing. So, my friends, get out there and go be awesome.